I wonder what the hell I'm gonna read today. A shooting or some looting, people rooting either side away. Maybe a murder that I heard of, they try to justify the dread. Makes me wanna turn around, drag myself right back in bed.
This content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained on here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by Draper Goren Holm or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever.
Hey everyone, it is me. We are here. Joseph is here too. Say hi, Joseph.
Hey, what's up?
Boom, boom, boom. We're recording.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
I am recording this on the computer now.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Boom. All right. It says it's recording. Boom, 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 boom. I am apparently recording.
The entire bottle of control. They're all exactly the same.
Crypto art, and then what it really is an NFT.
Wow.
Eddie wants to slap the bag.
So this is the next best thing.
DeFi is going to be a bubble.
It's provably scarce.
With Mad Dog.
Crypto, gold, and silver.
Transparent substance.
Take my money, start a war with it.
Without further ado,
Cheers to you, brother.
get shit done.
Because the system has to collapse before that.
Our Corona.
Cheers, I feel much better now.
Cheers.
Wow, that was heavy.
Boom. Here we go. Welcome to Blockchain and Booze number 91. So we've been going for 91 weeks straight. I was just joking about it in the chat because somebody said, I guess nobody takes time off for the holidays, technology, whatever. If it fell on Christmas, we'd probably take the day off. But, you know, it's a lot of people are still online. So well, I don't know.
I think it's funny. I live in the country where Jesus was born and raised and spent his whole life, but we don't have Christmas break. I feel cheated here. I really kind of feel
I
cheated
think
here.
that is a funny thing, and we can maybe this is a funny thinking about the holidays edition too. I was gonna wear my Christmas sweater with my Jingle Bells Batman smells. That's my favorite one. But
I have a Santa yarmulke.
I was raised by Israelis. I was raised by Israelis, but now I celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah in my house. But what's interesting to me is that like Hanukkah wasn't ever a huge deal amongst Israelis, but my American Jewish friends, Hanukkah was a huge deal because it falls at the time of Christmas, right? So do people get time off for Hanukkah at work, or that's not one of the holidays you get time off even, do you?
I'm still trying to search for the definition of what time off means. Like forget what what holiday it's supposed to be for, but
if you work at a bank.
I don't think they don't get off for Christmas. I don't believe so.
In Israel? No, but I mean for Hanukkah, do they get off?
Some days. I mean, a lot of the holidays go by how your kids are. So if your kids have off from school, a lot of times you'll get off.
Gotcha. I see. So anyway, guys, I wanted to say Blockchain Booze number 91. Thank you so much to our partners, Lunar Crush, for streaming this live. And to, of course, Blockchain Radio for also streaming this. We've got Alex Davis on. I didn't get to introduce you yet from Tezos Israel and also Mavryk Finance. Alex, welcome to Blockchain and Booze. Cheers. You're in Israel. It's 3 a.m. right now. So dang.
Cheers. L'chaim. I love your little. That's actually the first sip of that bottle. It's a new bottle, so I'm quite.
What do you think? Tell everyone about it. What is it?
I like it. I'm a really big fan of bourbon, so Jack Daniel's is just a really great, solid go-to. But it's essentially a special maple. I've never seen it before, at least here. But it's a special maple edition cask bottle. I got it in duty free, but it looked yummy, and it is for bourbon. So I'm happy with it.
Nice.
But I love your little boom intro because it actually reminds me of Doug DeMuro, if you watch him for car reviews.
Wait, Doug DeMuro. No,
He
Rich
does all the
DeMuro?
Doug DeMuro does all these like YouTube car reviews, and he does like the quirks and features, so it's very unique because everyone's like, this has got 700 horsepower, that one's got 750, and like you'll look like you're packing more under the hood if you're driving this car. No, so he does all the like the little like this switch actually raises the window only 2/3 if you touch it with 5 pounds of pressure. So he does all these like weird quirks and features, but he's got this thing where every episode he goes, this is a brand new blah blah blah, and then so now there's just videos of him going this, and it kind of reminds me of your like boom intro, and I love it.
The funny thing was that intro is way crazy too long, right? Like it's like, purposely a little bit long because we wanted enough time for the guests to like retweet, for people to pile into the live chats and some things like that, right? But it is way too long. My internet just went out. Hey, can you guys
I hear you. Hello?
Yo.
Hello?
Yo, are you there?
Yeah.
All right, let's see if the live stream is still going. I hope it didn't cut out. I'm looking at Remo ticker right now. I went robot, they said. Back? It says we're back. Dude,
perfect.
Tell me about it. I'm telling you guys, I just bought a new router. I'm installing it tomorrow, but I have the highest internet connection I could pay for. And you know what I end up using every time? It cuts out like it just did. I'm on my hotspot right now on my phone because that somehow works better. It's freaking ridiculous. But I don't remember what I was saying. Marvin says we're still live. Thank you, Marvin.
Hey, Marvin, thanks for the info.
By the way, I didn't mention at the beginning, there's a good reminder. If you are watching live and not listening after the fact on Blockchain Radio or watching on YouTube, go to meet.blockchainbooze.io. There's a bunch of people who watch live. They're in the chat right now. They're making fun of me for my internet connection going out. They've all become my friends and family over these 91 weeks of Blockchain Booze. Come join us back there. You'll also have a chance to ask questions in the Q&A. Ask Alex some questions, and we can have some fun, and you can join us. So anyway, Alex, diving right into stuff. I'd love for you to tell us. I'd love for you to tell us about Mavryk and what you guys are building. I know you recently announced that you're launching Mavryk Finance. Before that, you were Tezos Israel. What is that? And then I'll also, going into all of it, I'm going to ask you some Tezos questions. But first, what's Mavryk Finance?
All right. So I'm glad it's a 2-hour long.
We're going to do an hour, but then you can hang with the crew for an hour. So don't make the answers 2 hours long. We want to also leave room for questions and stuff.
I love it. I love it. So Mavryk Finance is essentially the birth child of. A while ago, I saw a problem in a lack, I should say, in the Tezos DeFi ecosystem, and so there are all these DeFi platforms and protocols on Ethereum, which eventually got migrated over, copy pasted into BSC and Tron. And we wanted to create something that was different and more unique. And so we wanted to take a lot of the elements of what made DeFi good across different platforms and what their, well, I've got this in Hebrew in my mind, chisronot, their cons. Exactly, like what they were missing, what was holding them back. And so we kind of essentially put together something that was really interesting. Mavryk is essentially, for the Americans and perhaps the Europeans out there, Mavryk is essentially a co-op, if you think about it that way, which is essentially a DAO, but it's a co-op that we think will function tremendously better than the way we found DeFi to actually work on governance. So Mavryk is a a DeFi-based banking cooperative, where if you think about it, it is a bank that is run by its community of users together, to facilitate and also incentivize them to facilitate a more fair form of capitalism. And the way that we've kind of integrated that together is we've taken, in terms of governance, everybody wants to own a governance token. No one actually votes. So if you want to have an upgrade proposal for a DAO, especially a co-op, you actually have to have people that show up and vote, and not just vote, but know what they're talking about. So, MakerDAO had a lot of problems structuring their governance in a way, and people didn't show up for MakerDAO votes, and they couldn't pass proposals, and that was a problem. Wonderful, we gave everybody the ability to vote, but no one does. I mean, even Winston Churchill said that the greatest argument against democracy is a 5-minute discussion with the average voter. So they even had the problems with the average voter showing up. So we kind of took Tezos's governance model, delegated, proof of stake, but specifically the stakeholders delegating to nodes. In Tezos, they're called bakers. On Mavryk, we call them satellites. And so it functions kind of like the U.S. government. And so, well, okay, hold on a second. It will function much better than the U.S. government when we come out, because as long as we just function, it is better than the U.S. government. But its structure is similar in a sense, where the stakeholder or citizen votes for their representative, a congressman. The congressman goes to Congress and votes on the citizen's behalf. At no time does the Congress.
The delegated stuff, like when you,
exactly,
for example, if you got your ENS tokens, if you had a .eth domain name, you received your tokens. Part of receiving them, they actually asked you to delegate it to somebody if you wanted to. But you could also vote yourself or be a delegate yourself, right?
So our stakeholders can't vote themselves unless they actually run a node, which is not as difficult as most infrastructure for other DeFi, for other, let's say infrastructure platforms. But a stakeholder can delegate their voting power to a node, and the node does two things. The satellites, just like bakers on Tezos, do two things. Bakers vote on governance updates for the core protocol of the layer 1 blockchain, and they validate transactions just similar to how a miner would validate transactions on Bitcoin. On Mavryk, we do something differently. The nodes still the nodes still vote on governance updates, the business logic behind the banking ecosystem. What collateral types do we use? How do we raise or lower interest rates? How do we disperse funds? The entire treasury is on chain, so it's completely transparent. But instead of validating transactions, as it's a DeFi platform and not a layer 1, the nodes sign the price feeds for a decentralized oracle. So you kind of have this Tezos governance model mixed with Chainlink decentralized oracles. And that creates this, representation where stakeholders can vote if they want to, they can run a node if they want to, they can just sit back and delegate if they want to. And we have an inbuilt decentralized oracle, which is something that is truly missing in the Tezos ecosystem, especially one that the community can run themselves.
So I love that. So that's the governance model. Can you just really quickly a little more about what Mavryk will do from a product perspective? I think you did touch on it with banking and stuff like that. But let's say day one you launch, what products are going to be available?
So our first product outside of the core governance is going to be an algorithmic stablecoin. It's quite similar to MakerDAO and DAI. It is in a system right now. We're waiting for USDC to launch on Tezos. Until that does, we need to launch a way for people to utilize the assets that they have on Tezos. And so that's going to be our first product. Then we're going to be rolling out peer-to-peer lending. We're also in discussions with a few banking partners for actually issuing a Mavryk debit card, so that this is not in the light paper, this is not in the deck. So the only way you're hearing this about Mavryk is if you've invested in the company, well, if you've invested in the protocol, or you heard it right here. So just a little snippet of of information. But yeah, we are talking about this is interestingly enough the easiest part of everything we're building. A Mavryk debit card where you can take your algorithmic stablecoin loan or Tezos or Bitcoin and then go swipe it in a shop. So, most people who take loans in crypto go leverage it and go buy other crypto. But we actually want to create a banking ecosystem and platform. So if you want to go buy Starbucks, you could. If you want to go buy, if Tezos or Bitcoin, moons, you can go and go buy yourself a new Apple computer.
So actually, before I dive into this, I think this is really super exciting, just my own personal thoughts, because I think that one of the things that Tezos is lacking, and I'm obviously a huge fan of Tezos. You guys we've done a bunch of Tezos sessions on here, and we will do a lot more. But I think one of the most important and exciting things for me is legit projects launching on Tezos, right? Like there can't just be Plenty or Crunchy or Tezfin or Mavryk. There needs to be all of them, in my opinion, to launch. I actually think it's way less important that Circle launches USDC on Tez than it is that Tezfin launches and you launch, and that more products like that launch, right? I think people trust USDC. There's something about that that's important, but I think the products being live are more important, and that's what's going to cause more people to come to Tezos. Like, to me, I understand all of the arguments as to why people are building on Tezos, why they think the technology is better. But there needs to be that bit of the greed factor and more products for people to move around their money in on chain to incentivize, right?
So this is actually something that I've got. I think I'm in quite a unique position to see the macro and micro economic puzzle pieces of how to build not just Mavryk forward, but also the Tezos ecosystem forward. So on one hand, I'm the chief innovation officer at Tezos Israel. We're a grantee of the foundation. We do everything we can to promote Tezos, build adoption. We integrated Celsius, by the way, about a week or two ago to integrate. So now you could actually lend your Tezos to Celsius. It's centralized, but still, it's implementations for Tezos. And on the other hand, I'm building Mavryk. So I've kind of got this 1 foot in, 1 foot out from the the institutional side of the insider side of Tezos, and then also like the entrepreneurial side of Tezos. I think that both need to happen. People ask me, what about competition for Mavryk? What does that do? And one, it lights a fire under my ass to perform better. That's one hand. But two, I can curse lightly here, right? Just a little bit.
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Perfect. Okay. So I'd like to fire under my ass to perform better, right? Competition breeds, or necessity breeds innovation, essentially. But on the other hand, that liquidity is necessary. There's no two ifs and ors buts about it. USDC is. I had this out on Twitter recently. USDC has $42.3 billion in liquidity. It is 11 times the market cap of Tezos, and so having that liquidity come in, even just for NFTs, for DeFi, for any project that we're working on would be huge, because your average person doesn't necessarily want to trade in and out of crypto assets like Bitcoin or ETH or Tezos. They want to trade in and out of what they're familiar with, and that's the US dollar. So
I think that we all, as much as I can say, right, that I think that Bitcoin may replace the dollar, which I may or not believe in, right? But like, if I can say that the dollar is being devalued, and all of these things, and all of these arguments that all of us are making about why crypto, but then at the end of the day, when I explain to someone how much a Tez is worth, or how much a Bitcoin is worth, or how much ETH is worth, I talk about it in dollar, right? Because I have to pay my mortgage in US dollars. I have to live my life in US dollars. So it's always against that. And I think that that's just a huge part of it.
On your note, though, by the way, sorry to interrupt, but a rising tide raises all ships. Yeah. And so, especially when it comes to Shimon Peres, a former prime minister of Israel, had a great line in one of the last commercials that he did. He landed in an empty field after parachuting. I mean, it was not really real. He was like 85 at the time, but they landed in an empty field with like the young jump master with him, and he says, get up, let's go to work. We've got a lot to build here. And the kid looks at him and he's like, what? There's nothing here. Like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna build? And he goes, when there's well, איפה שאין כלום אפשר לבנות הכל. Like, where there's nothing, you can build anything that you want. And so in the Tezos ecosystem really is this young burgeoning ecosystem where a rising tide raises all ships. Calibri, Uves, Mavryk, Tesfin, Flame, Alien. There's all of these projects are equally important, but having billions pour into them is just another ballgame.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty, and I don't think people like expected it. Maybe because for most people, not most people, you know what? A year ago, not many of our friends knew what NFTs were, and we thought of NFTs as these cool collectible things and ideas of something that could be cool. And in the last year, shit just exploded, right? Like everything blew up, and apes exist, and half of these blockchain boozes or more are about NFTs now and stuff. Because I may have been a nerd for it at the beginning, but there wasn't a big value there. But Tezos, what was beautiful about that for Tezos at least was that as people discovered NFTs, no new artists, no new noobs, collectors, anyone who wanted to participate could really participate on chain on Ethereum, because unless you already had a bunch of this magical internet money, spending $50, $100 a time per transaction for a fee was just stupid. It didn't make sense. How do you experiment with something if you can't even get off of zero, right? And so Tezos launched, maybe 6 months ago, 7 months ago, the first NFT platforms on Tezos, and enabled that, right? So where I thought that actually the first users of Tezos, not the first users, but the first influx of users from outside would come in for DeFi, because DeFi launched around the same time, it ended up happening with NFTs. And I think that's growing faster and faster every moment. And we had, Mike Shinoda on here. My weeks are all mixed up, last week or the week before, and he did his Tezos drop, and people are starting to do some cool things. And I think that all of these things combined, like you said, all boats rise with the tide, right? So I think it's all really, really important. So I'd like to, even take a step back beyond maybe Mavryk too. And I know you're part of Tezos Israel, like you said before, but even just in relation to Mavryk, in relation to everything, why build on Tezos? I like the analogy of where there's nothing, you can build anything, right? That's cool. But I mean, I'd love to, is there anything really specific in the technology or something about the governance model or a combination of all those things that you love most about Tezos that made you decide to build on Tezos?
I love this question because I've had this asked to me from everybody from VCs to private investors to people in the Tezos ecosystem themselves. Tezos, the official answer essentially is, there are several factors that make Tezos one of the greatest blockchains that's here to last. One of them is essentially the on-chain governance. And so we have no hard forks. We just implemented the 8th or 9th, perhaps, Hangzhou update. I can't remember numbers now. It's actually been quite a many. I think it's the 9th, but forkless upgrade into Tezos. We have 0 forks in Tezos. And so when it comes to regulation, burden, securities, etc., you don't have a hard fork, which is just detrimental completely to a layer 1 blockchain. I mean, can you imagine if you updated your iPhone and all of a sudden you can't send a message to your friend because they chose version A of the upgrade and you chose version B, and you can't send an emoji to them or even interact with their cell phone? So it's the idea of a hard fork is just so primitive to me, honestly. So one, no hard forks. On-chain governance gives us updates every 3 months and no hard forks. That's a huge benefit for Tezos.
I'm gonna say to Eddie and some of the others watching in the different spots, if you go to meet.blockchainbooz.io, you can ask questions in the chat there, and that's where I monitor the chat. I happen to see this, so sorry. Go on.
No worries. Another one is delegated proof of stake. I mean, we are 2 million times more efficient than proof of work. And I understand that there's this whole big qualms of proof of work is better and proof of stake is centralizing. Let's be fair. Or the only blockchains really to have, or bigger blockchains really to have had a 51% attack have been proof of work blockchains. Proof of stake blockchains have, at least Tezos, Alon Goren, Solana have not, I mean, Solana's had its qualms lately, but have not had 51% attacks where proof of work blockchains have. Proof of work was really great to get a blockchain out from genesis of all the technology of blockchain, but proof of stake really, once we kind of get over the fact that we know what this technology is and we can distribute tokens on at least a capital raise type of level, because we need to continue development, 2 million times more efficient than Bitcoin and Ethereum is a game changer. Artists don't like to, destroy the environment. And I know it doesn't sound like much of like, oh, you're running computers, but that electricity comes from somewhere, right? Proof of work burns electricity that you could be using for other things. And I'm not saying that there's no value in it, but it's unnecessarily wasteful for a smart contract platform. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
A recent study from
Kevin and some of the other folks in the chat are making a point about when there's a fork of a chain, that the assets exist on both forks, and then which asset is the real one, which one isn't. And David Rankin made a great joke. It would suck to own twice the assets on ETH. Imagine the tax bill.
Imagine your gas though. I'm not really worried about the taxes as much as long as you don't sell. But imagine your gas if you send it from one wallet to another.
Well, can you just like give like a printout of fees.wtf to the IRS? Just print out fees.wtf to your wallet and send it to them and be like, this is a deduction, right? Just see what your accountant says.
I'm not even sure if they understand what gas is. We're like, it's $8 a gallon. He goes, well, it's $100 on Ethereum. But I think Ethereum gas fees should have a joke that overtakes the Bitcoin. Like, I lost my wallet in a boating accident. Like, there should just be something. It's like, well, my $1 transaction cost me $1 million in gas, so I really didn't profit anything. It's actually $1 million write-off.
I've seen this a bunch of times. There's a problem with ENS actually and MetaMask. There's like a really shitty user experience error, and I don't know if they fixed it yet, but I know of 3 or 4 people that sent a bunch of money to a contract that doesn't have an owner on purpose, that was like decentralized and sent out into the world for ENS, like part of the ENS system. They sent tokens to it because of a MetaMask error. One of those people, it was tens of thousands of dollars worth. That money is gone. Can they put that on their tax bill as a write-off? Like, it's just lost money. They can show the transaction where they no longer have control over it. It's insane.
I mean, good luck getting the IRS to actually understand that. But then again, like, God knows. Better minds at taxes are really, thinking of mine. So I build, other people take care of my taxes. That's basically the way I go. Can't be a jack of all trades. So that's a really big, especially if you want to think about security tokens and tokenized equities, equity, real estate, art, etc. That is a huge factor. The on-chain governance and no hard forks is a huge factor for Tezos. I can't imagine owning, like, imagine you had Apple stock on Ethereum and there's a hard fork and all of a sudden you just doubled the circulating supply of stock. Like, all the authorized shares is automatically doubled unwillingly. It's mind-blowing to me, really. And that's another reason why Tezos is a leader for tokenized securities. That one specific issue. And lastly, there's a third issue. There's a third massive plus for Tezos. Most people don't really realize this, but Tezos is built on what's called functional computing, functional programming. So we can test the code before we deploy it. And a lot of the bugs that you find on Ethereum and all the smart contract hacks that you're seeing, for the most part, don't happen on Tezos because of this. And so it's a more secure coding language. We don't have hard forks, and we have constant rollout of updates, and we're completely energy efficient. So why would you not build, if you're building a banking system, which is a very long play, banking is a long play, ignore crypto for a moment. Why would you not go on a chain that will last the next 20 years?
Yeah.
The foundation's sitting on $2 billion worth of funding to build the ecosystem. They're the 5th largest holder of Bitcoin.
It's really funny, and it's totally a side note. While you were talking, my phone was going off, and I've been watching and monitoring stuff. I got the text that blockchain booze begins at 5 p.m. half an hour too late. So maybe I didn't do that phone update, and maybe there was some kind of phone fork thing. I'm just joking. You know, I love all of that. Is there anything in the smart contract? So I guess you're saying that the language is more secure, and there's some issues like that. But is there anything in the contracts that make it, you know, is like one thing, for example, is that delegated proof of stake a part of every smart contract? Is that something easy to bake into a new token on Tezos or something like that that makes it different than maybe Ethereum? I'm just trying to think of, like, from a product standpoint, for me interacting with a DeFi protocol on Tezos versus getting that ENS token or whatever on Ethereum. What's the, you know?
I love the nomenclature some of that you use there. Like, can you bake it in? And I'm thinking, like, does he mean Tezos baking? Or
it gets confusing because
yeah, you know,
when people start talking about vaults versus on Tezos, they might call them bakeries, or you know, Tezfin has minteries.
it does get,
so I've got my USD Tez from a mintery. It gets weird. I kind of love it, but it also gets confusing.
yeah, there's a lot of you know, Tezos. It started in France, so Tezos happens to have a lot of, you know, baking references and rolls and baguettes or pretzels. If you kind of look at this whole, you know, ovens, there's one protocol that calls their vaults ovens, Calibri,
Yeah.
and so we just call them vaults. You know, I'm not trying to confuse anybody. There is a way to bake that in, pun intended, but essentially, if you lock XTZ in a vault in order to borrow against it, you can actually delegate that XTZ into any baker that you want. Obviously, we incentivize you to delegate to our own bakeries. We're running 2 bakeries. I'll explain afterwards. But oh yeah, that was also a little snippet I haven't announced yet. So that will become a Medium post, but you heard it here first. So we do incentivize kind of like essentially delegating to our own bakeries. But the user will be able to delegate to any bakery that they want to as well. And what does that mean, essentially? Since Tezos is delegated proof of stake, DPoS, you actually earn Tezos by delegating your Tezos. So you make roughly 5.8% a year minus some bakery fees. But that also means that when your Tezos is in a vault, your collateral is constantly rising. So if you know, imagine if you just like gave someone a brick of gold to use as collateral for a loan, the gold doesn't earn you anything. With Tezos, it does. And so that after a year, that vault will now have 5.8% more Tezos, roughly. And that's something that you don't get on other chains. Ethereum, should ETH 2.0 ever actually launch, good luck. I have my qualms about ETH, and I will be respectful about them. But should it ever actually launch, one, it's going to be chaotic, but 2, you still have a long way to go until that ETH is actually usable.
Yeah. So is the idea, so, you know, when you hold your Tezos in a wallet, you can delegate it and you can earn that, you can earn your fees on it through a bakery. And then that's the beauty of baking, or putting your, or not baking, but putting your vault doing with a thing called CTES.
Alon, you're breaking up.
But it's similar. Can you guys hear me?
It went a little fuzzy for me, so I couldn't really make out the sentence.
Okay, I'm sorry. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here now. I hear you.
Okay, so shit. So, you know, the idea of you know, of being able to also earn interest on the Tez that you lock, right, is totally different than the idea of, you know, actually the only place you can really do that on Ethereum is earn interest, but then also borrow against it, is the centralized platforms right now, as far as I understand. You can't really earn interest on your Ethereum that's sitting on Aave while you're borrowing against it, right? But if you do have it on Celsius and you borrow against it, you are earning something, I think.
Well, you could buy, I think, like C and Y ETH. So like the token, kind of like the compound and Yearn versions, and maybe even Aave as well, versions of Ethereum. So it's kind of like Ethereum placed into a vault, a smart contract that's being lent out, and then you're given back your, you know, receipt token of that Ethereum. So then that now earns kind of like, you know, oh, I'm blanking on the acronym now. There's so many acronyms in this entire field, but like CUSDC or something, or YUSDC. So like you there is a way of doing that, but you really have to jump through hoops and hurdles in order to do so. Where with Tezos, it's native, you know, in the protocol itself.
Yeah, I think it can enable more and more interesting products as well, which I think is important. I'm looking at some of our crew and their and in the chat and what they have to say about it. It's really interesting. So going back to Tezos Israel and Mavryk specifically. Now, when is the launch? I know you kind of said that there were a few things you said on here tonight that you haven't announced yet. So when are the big announcements? When do you plan on launching? I know right now it's the end of the year, but would love to hear about it. Are you there?
Yeah, I signed into the Remo so I could see everyone's comments and whatnot as we keep going, and then I've actually got like parallel sort of things going on, and I'm trying to
you got to
mute the second
audio
one.
you got to mute the audio on the other tab. That's how I do it. It's probably why my connection is so crappy too. Is I'm on that one connection, so I can see myself in two spots, but one of them's muted, so I could be typing in the chat and goofing around. But yeah, I wanted to know the timeline of Mavryk launch and some things like that, and I'll jump into the QA. If anybody has any questions, throw them in the QA. Would love to hear about it or ask Alex the questions. Otherwise, I can just hang with Alex and talk about whatever the heck we want.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, I just had to close that. It just was not working. You know, to do that simultaneously is I need to launch it and just shut the mic and the video. So Mavryk launch, yeah. So we are we're being a little quiet about the Mavryk launch. It's looking like the end of Q1, early Q2, for the most part. I'm leaving it a little bit open ended because when it comes to things like audits and development manpower, thankfully in the most interesting side of things, you know, we just actually announced a partnership with Collective Ventures earlier today in terms of partnering with us to, you know, for investment and running an Oracle. We have some more partnership agreements coming up soon, but I'll let them come out in their natural habitats to put a really big smile on everyone's faces. You know, money is actually really plentiful today. It's been a great environment to raise capital in. So the entity is well funded to build Mavryk, and we're on a hiring spree. So whether that comes to, you know, we're onboarding an extra medium level developer now. We're in a search, actually hiring out and specifically an in-house UI UX guy. We have like a very multifaceted, you know, team lead and CTO essentially. So we are expanding our team at the moment in order to push that forward. So we're playing with a few different things. There's some regulatory hurdles to overcome. You know, I don't really think anyone's built something as complicated as we are building on Tezos at the moment. We've got 6 dexes, wonderful, but not a lot of, you know, worthy assets. And so we're making sure that we get everything right before launch rather than just launching a token and then the product necessarily fully later. So when we launch, one of the problems that we actually ran into when building was upgradable smart contracts on Tezos. And they exist on Elrond. We don't really have them on Tezos, and so that kind of bogged us down a tiny bit. And we're making great headway in pushing that through. We've kind of actually overcome most of the hurdles that we have, that we've had. And so when we do launch, though, it's not going to be, oh, well, we promise decentralization in the future, and we promise that you'll be able to stake your tokens and delegate them to a satellite. And we promise that you'll be able to do X and Y and Z. Our entire DAO governance structure and delegating and our on-chain treasury will all be up from day one. And this is a level of complicated, of architectural complications that just we haven't seen on Tezos yet. And so it's taking us a bit longer than just saying, you know what, we're gonna fork that code and change the branding and make it ours. So thankfully, I've
I
got
mean, I think
incredible.
that there's what's wonderful about Tezos is there's a few teams, and I think that a lot of the folks are launching a little bit more responsibly on Tezos than maybe Ethereum. But that could be, maybe in my own opinion, and I don't know if many other people share this, but a part of me feels like that kind of sucks in some ways. Like it's a really really good thing. But it's like a bummer to me that more crazy shit isn't launching on Tezos all the time. Like the chaos, I think, I think that it's probably better for the long term, but in the short term, like I love the chaos. I love these new things launching. I love the stupidness of it when you are at least aware enough to know that something like a Yam launch or whatever is dumb. Like, you know, it's dumb, but you're like participating to learn something new, and hopefully you don't lose serious money, or like you should go in assuming you're going to lose. Because I think that out of that chaos sometimes comes really beautiful and exciting stuff. But I think that on Tezos, it's actually a great thing. The question I have for you is, would you guys be as careful as you are in launching like full decentralized and all of these things, and taking, you know, many more months than maybe you know, you would want it to, but you know, but are you doing it this way because of regulatory issues? Like you did mention that, like, if, for example, the government was like, yeah, DAOs are rad and crypto is awesome and everyone should innovate, would you be launching sooner?
I mean, look, I sat down with with one of the regulators where the software development company building Mavryk is domiciled. And you know, it was really great because I actually got to sit down and have a one-on-one chat with him, have several coffees, which is something you can't do in the United States. It, you know, I wouldn't say yes and no, because I think this is also my personal my personality is really more to under promise and over deliver. And so that's why I kind of enjoy being a little bit more vague, is because I can't give you a pinpoint date, or I can't give you a certain detail. When I can tell you a detail, I will be upfront and as openly transparent about it as possible. But I'm not going to over embellish and be like, you know what, we're launching in the next 5 days and you have to get in now and it's the end of the line. No,
that's not what I was hoping for or wanting. Like I know the government is never going to just be like, DAOs are cool, bro. Like, let's do this, because it's circumventing their control, right? But what constantly bothers me, like really sucks about the space, being an American, right? And you're based in Israel, their legislation is a little different, and there's also different jurisdictions in and around and in between, and where team members are and where you might launch and things like that. Fine. What I'm saying is that, like, we don't always get to do things exactly the way we want to do them, because there's this, like, you know, dark cloud above us going like waiting to slap your hand when you reach for something, right? Because you just know that that's not the way it might be. The thing is, I don't think any of this stuff is illegal. What I think is that this stuff, there's nobody making it clear that it's legal, and that freaks everyone the fuck out, right? Like that's what bothers people, and that's why lawyers are you know, in demand.
I agree and I disagree. I don't think our laws are even capable of understanding what we're doing here, and especially when it comes to, I mean, like the Congress and what Elizabeth Warren said earlier this week. But when we sat down and spoke to the regulators, you know, their laws are focused around crypto funds and investments and not around DAOs. So we were actually like 1 point off of becoming a regulated entity. And that was simply, you know, KYC. That was the last factor for us of how to become a regulated entity for Mavryk, as a DAO even, but KYC. And obviously, you know, decentralized ID is not ready yet. So that's not even something that we can implement now if they force us to. And so you know, we used horses for a really long time to get around, and then came the automobile, and the laws. I mean, I'm assuming whatever laws we had for horses in terms of, like, you know, can you gallop on the left or right side of the street, for example? God knows, there wasn't really a street; it was just a path, really. But you know, the laws governing automobiles didn't come before the automobiles were on the road for a while. We had this period where like there were horses and cars, and we've got video of this even, which is remarkable. But there are horses and cars on the same road, and how do you get by? Like, do you have to tie your like Ford Model T to where the horses go? Like, where do you park your buggy next to the horse? Like, do you put it next to the trough of water? Like, you know, there was this moment of overlapping chaos, I guess, and that's the moment that we're in now. And Caitlin Long is working on crypto regulation in Wyoming for DAOs. There's nothing inherently illegal, and let's be a little bit frank here. We're giving power back to the people, where the banks and the institutions are really the evil people here. At a crypto conference in Gibraltar, someone asked me, what about consumer protections? We need the government to protect people. It's like, we need the government to piss the fuck off is really what we need them to do. For the most part, I will say regulation will be a good thing, for crypto. But when we implement these KYC and AML properties which have a failure rate of 99.99% failure rate, the banks are the ones doing the majority of crypto laundering, money laundering for cartels, anyways. And every year, Wells Fargo and HSBC and Chase are being fined billions upon billions of dollars, even though they're spending $50 billion a year on KYC and AML. And then we have the United States government leaving $20 billion worth of weapons in the Taliban's hands. You're worried about my $500 NFT purchase of a JPEG? Really?
It's absolutely bonkers. We know that. But that's the thing is, it just so happens the head of the Investor Protections Committee gets 90% of his donations to his campaigns from the financial institutions that he's protecting consumers from. It's like, wait, what? Huh? This doesn't make sense. But it's just the crazy, weird ass reality of this system, and the hypocrisy is the worst part, right?
It's horrible.
Sorry, wait. Adele just had the best comment in the world. He said, "Is it a JPEG of a nuke?"
I don't know. Be careful,
Adele. How dare you? That was really funny, though.
I don't want Israel taking down Tezos, please. Or Algorand or Solana or any NFTs. So the whole nuke JPEG thing.
That was one of the best comments. I'm sorry. So we've only got a couple minutes left. Actually, we got like 10 minutes left before we jump into tables and chat with the community. If you're online and you want to, so I'll throw up. See, the two windows totally trips me up. I'm looking at the wrong side.
I know. I'm trying to find a way to turn this off.
Go to meet.blockchainbooze.io if you want to ask a question. Throw any questions in the QA, and everybody who's watching, if you have questions for Alex. By the way, the fact that you put your Twitter address on there and it says Davis Alex D, I keep wanting to call you Davis because my brain just goes straight to that, even though we've met about 100 times now.
I'm a product of my upbringing. But what's funny, though, is that I think we're always drinking every time we see each other, which maybe it should be concerning, but I'm not sure we've had a sober time.
Most of our daily Zoom meetings, I'm not drinking, but it is nighttime for you because I'm here and you're there, so you might be.
Wait, you're not drinking on those Zoom meetings?
No, I'm not. They're usually around 10 a.m. my time. I'm not full on DGen. I'm sorry. I can throw on my...
No, I'm just I was just like turning my face like, I thought that was the thing we were doing in those day meetings.
I see the chat. Everyone's cheersing on the chat. Don't use your NFT. Guys, I can't read this chat out loud or else Jim's gonna get us all in trouble. So let's see.
You can bring some people in here.
Here's a good question about, Tezos is super active in the AML space and all that. I mean, in the NFT space, I'm not sure how this connects to NFTs or just blockchain and crypto in general. But how do you think about AML and just, I guess, not AML specifically, but I think what she's meaning is kind of ID verification and KYC and AML and that kind of stuff on chain moving forward in 2022. I know you're very forward thinking about that. Some other people are totally against it, but
I actually had this this talk with some investors earlier tonight, right before this call. I don't think 2022 will necessarily bring in the regulation to force DeFi platforms. You know, at the end of the day, there's always a software development company behind a DeFi platform, in one way or another. There's a foundation, there's a software development, there's a fund, there's something, and the government's gonna find a way to do what it wants. That's just the way government is at the end of the day. I do think that decentralized ID is a good idea for implementing regulatory purposes. We still have to play within the laws. I have absolutely zero plans to go to jail for breaking any US government or European government law, or any law, I guess, in a sense. But we will have to implement these things when the governments force us to. So I think that DID will become a thing down the line. I don't think it'll be 2022. I still think we have some time until they can get their grips together and understand what everything is. The US government is notoriously slow at this. And so it'll happen. It'll come at some point. I don't think it'll stay this. I think we can still have decentralization while also still having a form of regulation.
I think, though, that the on-ramps and off-ramps are more than regulated enough, and the KYC processes and things that they have. I think it's been clear from law enforcement that's participated in our events and enforcement agents who've participated in our events, both pre-COVID and since COVID. We've had multiple agents for actual law enforcement agencies around the world participate in our events and tell us they would rather every time they would rather the criminals that they're investigating be transacting in crypto over fiat every time, right? And the on-ramps and the off-ramps have KYC, and that's where they put money into the real world, and that's how they do it. Not, there is there's definitely what's it called, right? Like OTC crypto deals, but like a drug cartel that needs billions of dollars, and the people doing the most damage to the world and really hurting the most are using banks to do this stuff. And the thing is, they would much rather it be done in crypto every single time. And so I think that already the on-ramps and off-ramps are regulated probably more than enough for it. And all of the on-chain stuff is it's going to circumvent them whether they like it or not, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great point. I never really thought about it necessarily in that way, but that it is. The on and off ramps are KYC'd and regulated. There will always be OTC trades, and as you said, where's some drug cartel going to get $1 billion of cash overnight? But I honestly, I feel bad for the people in the field who have to track these things. Crypto definitely makes it 100 times easier to track these. A guy I know is the CEO of a company that tracks Bitcoin, crypto transactions from terrorist groups. The Israeli government basically seized, I think, like 50 wallets on a centralized exchange that belonged to Hamas. It's way easier to track crypto transactions than banking transactions, that's for sure. But I really do feel bad for the people in the field who have to deal with BS regulatory laws that they're just harming everyday citizens. For me, really, I want to give power back to people.
Yeah, they're stopping people from innovating. They're stopping people from creating jobs. The number one category for new job creation in the United States is startups and small businesses. Every single time they stop a new startup or small business from being started because they're afraid of crypto regulation, they're stopping the number one source of new jobs in a country in the world right now is completely fucked, right? There's so many people that have been displaced in the last 2 years because of all the craziness going on. And it's absolutely nuts that the government would do anything that would slow down the number one creator of new jobs in our country. I think I'm assuming beyond that too.
I mean, Alon, you guys run the fund. So when it comes to investing in blockchain startups, how many, I'm not talking about the operations on the ground in the United States, but like how many of those companies are actually domiciled in the United States and not somewhere else, and then run the whole legal hoopla that all of us are doing in order to, just be able to operate regularly?
I remember in 2016, 17, I was getting the first job I ever got at a fund. Before that, I had my own startups and things like that. But all of my startups had to do with online fundraising and fintech. And so like I understood the technology. I sort of thought I understood the finance side of things. But then I started meeting people who were like, we're creating a crypto fund, but we're based in the United States. We're going to have a feeder fund in Gibraltar, and this thing in Malta, and this thing in the Cayman Islands, but we're going to be here. And I'm like, can you just like create a California company? And they like laughed at me like, like
No, no way.
That's what, are you an idiot? Like that's how they looked at me, and I didn't get it. And even when we started DGH, I created it's a California-based, a US-based company when we first did DGH, because it was Goren Home Ventures. It was just our conferences and things we did. And we keep getting pressure from everyone around us. There's been deals we weren't allowed to participate because we're based in the United States, and the other countries won't allow us. And every day, I tell people this all the time, and I try to like make it clear to US people that like, one, I'm born and raised in California. I love California. I'm going to be here probably my whole entire life. I want to raise my kids here. I want to be here, right? But at the same time, my whole life, I'm a punk rocker. Everybody's like, man, if that person's elected, I'm moving to Canada. If that person is elected, I'm going to Europe. If this thing happens, I'm leaving the country. But nobody ever actually left, right? But in crypto, in this day and age, with the way technology is and the world being so borderless and small in terms of being able to communicate with our friends and family, and we can, like, you and I have had way more hangout sessions on Zoom and over this than we would have any other time in history, right? If we met each other 5 years earlier, we would have seen each other 3 times in the last 5 years, right? So because actually one time, because I've only been to Israel once. I think you've come out here though. So anyway, like there's that. So, but
it's funny you say that, because we're actually, me and my family are, because of crypto regulation and taxation and all this like legal hoopla of like, even if we wanted to pay 50% tax in Israel, the banks don't want to accept any of our money from crypto. So it looks like we're moving to Dubai. My father's on the line here, so now that I just professed that to the world rather than friends and family, he's watching this. Yeah, I mean, for this exact reason, I know a bunch of people that moved to Puerto Rico. I know a bunch of people that moved to Dubai. CZ just moved to Dubai. Joseph just moved to Dubai. So, yeah,
it's what's crazy. That's what I was going to get at is the thing I do the most is have people pitch us, right? So I hang out with our portfolio companies. I hang out with our investors, and I chase investors because people who have funds have to also fundraise too. It's part of the job. And then I meet awesome people creating startups all day long, and I only get to work with 1 out of 20 of them, right? Like if I'm lucky. And I meet Americans every single day, dudes with Midwestern accents, and I go like, oh, where are you? Expecting them to tell me they're somewhere in the Midwest, or somebody with like a Texas accent or whatever, expecting them to tell me where they are, and they're like, oh, I'm in Singapore. Oh, I'm in Thailand. Oh, I'm in Switzerland. And it's the first time I've ever been a part of an industry where literally like more than half the people I talk to, I should preface this. One, more than half the people I talk to are not American, but more than half of the Americans I talk to are not in the United States, right? It's and I don't know. I'm obsessed with California. I joked in the chat. I said I'll sync with California, which, by the way, check out that song. It's one of my favorite songs by a band called Youth Brigade. But if I didn't have kids, I don't know if I'd still be here. And it's, for me, actually,
I'm scared.
I care less about the taxes and stuff like that because I'm a weirdo. I care more about about just the fact like that the cities are not as nice anymore. None of the politicians who say they're going to be helping the #1 problems in California, Southern California, Northern California, homelessness. And those problems have gotten significantly worse in the last 10 years, like significantly worse. And so it's just ugly. Somebody said earthquakes. The earthquakes don't scare me, but I was born and raised here, so that's just.
There are earthquakes in California? I thought we just got like little back massages every now and then. The news reported something.
Yeah, no. Every once in a while, there's a real one.
I mean, the last like real one was what, 94, like the Northridge.
Yeah,
I grew up in LA, also. It's
Yeah. So okay, we need to finish up so that we can jump into the chat. They make waves. so we need to
They make waves.
close this off so we can jump into tables with everyone who wants to continue to hang out. And you know, I'm gonna why don't we just round it out by you telling us where to follow you, where to follow Mavryk, and then whoever wants, you'll be able to turn on your camera, turn on your mic, and join us at the tables, and we can have some fun. But Alex, where do we follow you?
Okay, so obviously, you know, my personal Twitter handle is actually in the right here. If
Yeah.
you can, oh, that's the wrong finger. Hold on. There we go. Okay, so it's right there. You can follow me on Twitter. It's got a link over to Mavryk Finance. We're on Twitter as well. I think it's Mavryk_finance, but we intentionally had to misspell Maverick because every URL on the internet is taken. So it is Mavryk, Mavryk Finance. It means to be a person who doesn't go along with the crowd, be an independent thinker. You should also join, if you find our Twitter, you should join our Discord. The community is a little bit more engaging there than they are in Telegram. We're not looking for like a community that goes when moon. We're looking for a community that actually wants to discuss governance proposals and building out a digital bank of the future. So please join our Discord. There's about 940 people there so far. We're kind of kicking ass on that in the Tezos DeFi realm of Discord members. And we're actually about to do an NFT drop for the early crypto, the early people who joined our Discord to get the OG space traveler role. So that'll be coming soon.
I gotta jump in. I hate Discord so freaking much lately. Even though although my nephew at dinner on last Friday night, took my phone from me and set all the settings to make me stop getting so much spam. So I'm gonna try.
There is, but it's so organized. It's
that's what I'm hoping.
Love it.
I was getting too much spam. I was getting too much spam. So he's helping me. We'll see. I'll jump into your Discord. I hope I get there in time to get the NFT. That sounds awesome. And got everyone who's watching. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays,
Christmas, everyone.
Wait, is there going to be? I guess there will be one more between now and New Year's, right? So, I think we'll figure that out because we're 91 weeks straight. I don't think we can make this not happen. So if I don't see you before then, everyone, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. Happy late Hanukkah, Happy New Year, and Merry Christmas. And guys, thank you so much for such a amazing year. If you miss next week because of holidays and family and everything. And Alex, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. It's now 4 a.m. in Israel. You are a rock star. Feel free to join us at the tables, but if you need to go to sleep, I understand also. We'll see you soon.
I mean, Alon and everyone at DGH, Joseph, I can't wait to see you both again. Thank you so much for having me here. We've got a lot to do together. I'm trying to log into the channels thing, so I will join you. I live, breathe, and sweat and bleed Tezos. So I will be joining you in that chat till sunrise. And I just need to be able to log in because I closed it and then it kind of
just go to meet.blockchainbooze.io. All right, I'm ending the broadcast.
Perfect.
I'll see you guys at the tables.